Sparks. We're gonna go over Vinyasa, not the Vinyasa class, or not the Vinyasa in Vinyasa class, or the Vinyasa style of yoga, but the Vinyasa flow that is in a Vinyasa class. It's a series of poses from either plank or lowering down to a chaturanga to up dog, cobra, or baby cobra to down dog. It can, depending on who your instructor is, it is also a trigger word. Well, maybe. It's also used in sun salutations because it works in major parts of your body. And it's also used between sequences in a Vinyasa class to help you flow more smoothly between different sets or different series. The main priority is 1, upper body strength. You need to lower down into chaturanga and hold yourself up into up dog, or else you modify. 2, back flexibility. This sort of determines whether or not you're going to take baby cobra, cobra, or up dog, as well as upper body strength. And lastly is core. You need your core to help stabilize as you flow, so you don't dump into your low back. Also, with your core, you need to really be mindful of how you're using your breath, because depending on how you use your breath, you can turn on or you can engage your core versus not engage your core, which can lead to potentially, again, dumping into your low back. So we're gonna start with coming into a plank first. So in down dog, you lower your hips for plank. Your hands are below your shoulders, and you're knitting your hips and your ribs together to try to create a flat line between your shoulders to your feet. First is, if you're in plank, you want to rock forward so your shoulders are past your wrists. So when you lower down halfway to chaturanga, your elbows make a 90-degree angle. By doing so, you're preventing your elbows from getting yoga elbow or tennis elbow, I forget. Because if your elbows are not stacked on top of your wrist, you might pull a tendon and or get an injury. If you're on the floor, you're coming into a cobra or a baby cobra. So engage your legs, lift your chest, and or try to straighten out your arms. Lastly, you tuck your toes and lift your hips for down dog. I shouldn't be lazy. Couple of notes. 1, upper body strength. If you can't come into a chaturanga, it's much better to lower your knees and take it modified. Or if your upper body strength is it's not as strong, and you can't support yourself if you can't support yourself in an up dog, you're going to be ending up like not only straining your shoulders but also your low back. Second is back flexibility. When you're in a cobra versus up dog, I explain it in more detail in a different video. Like up dog is not only does it work your upper body strength, but it also is a deeper back bend. So because your legs are off the floor, there's additional pressure on your low back if your low back is not flexible enough. And the reason why is because you roll your toes to get into an up dog, but if you're on your floor, you're going to take a cobra or a baby cobra. So for example, I'm in plank. Rock forward, lower halfway. If I lower my chest to the floor, the distance between my hands and my feet are going to be longer than if I rock forward, lower halfway, then roll my toes. If I roll my toes, you can see that the distance gets shorter, and because it's shorter, I need a bigger back bend, both my low back and my thoracic spine. So if I'm struggling in cobra a lot, it's much better to not take the up dog than to get an injury. Because if you're doing a vinyasa multiple times in a class, you're that much more likely to injure yourself if you're straining, if you're overexerting and straining yourself. And last part about core and using your breath. This will help you maximize the benefit that you get from a vinyasa, regardless of if you're modifying or not. I'll explain. When you're in plank, you exhale into a chaturanga, because as you exhale, you are engaging your abdominal muscles to create stability, so you're not dumping into your low back, and it helps maintain a flat back. So as you rock forward, exhale, lower halfway. So you don't hurt your low back. Because when you inhale, you're engaging the backside of your body and softening your belly. So imagine that if I was in chaturanga without engaging my core, there's nothing, it'll definitely dump into my low back because the bottom is soft and the top is hard, more engaged. So you end up that's why you inhale into a back bend rather than exhale, because it softens your abdominal muscles. So on that note, if I'm exhaling into a chaturanga, and then if I want to come into a back bend, I will definitely do that on an inhale. My belly's on the floor, or it's halfway. Then as I inhale, it engages the back, softens your belly, so you can get into a deeper back bend. Then when you exhale again, you're lifting your hips into a down dog. It's important to especially exhale when you lift your hips to engage your core, because you want to try to lift your hips using the strength of your core rather than pushing your hips back. As I said, like, you're doing vinyasas multiple times a day, and so that's one more chance or another chance for you to work on your core, so maybe you can get into your handstand a little bit earlier. That's why in class I never say to push your hips back. Instead, I say lift your hips, because mainly for the reason to maximize the benefit of working your core in each vinyasa. So that was generally the gist for vinyasa. There's multiple ways you can either deepen it or modify it, which I can cover later, and also how to get into it by floating into a chaturanga, which is not covered for this video, but that was certainly the gist. Thank you for watching.